So the recording has started. We want to look at usereducer. You use it. Usereducer is usually used to replace your use states, but then it's not like the go-to tool for state management. It's not. It's not. Your use state is like your default. But when you have complex states, because sometimes you have complex states, imagine you have a state, and inside that state, let's say your state is an object. Inside that object, you have an array again inside it. Like when you have complex states, then you should consider using use reducer instead of use state for that particular state. Do you get it?
No, sir.
Okay, I will give you an instance. Let's see. What about this scenario? So let's say we have a state that looks like this. Let's say let's a comma set a, or let's say var comma set var. Can we see my screen? Please, can we see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So if you have a state like this, you know the value of var is currently 4. Have you know?
Yes, sir.
There is no problem with this one. This is a simple state. You can maybe add a toggle to increase the value of var or reduce it and all of that. But let's assume your states, the value of var is something like this. Let's say it's an array. And along the line, you are going to push items inside it, and it will end up being an array of objects. So that inside it, you are going to have, let's say, students, and let's say students can be, let's say, Taye, Kenny, So this is an array of objects, and inside this object, you still have another array. You know, this is somewhat like a complex state.
Yes.
So when you have state like this, then you should consider using usereducer. If it's a simple state, use state is fine. But when you have a complex state like this, you should consider using usereducer. That's one.
Sir, please come back. What's the function of usereducer?
It's to work like your use states, but it's used for complex states. When the state is complex, usereducer is better.
So we don't come and update. We come and update.
Yeah, just like your use state. The only thing is it handles complex states better.
Okay. And complex state is like when you're having different arrays inside an array of objects.
Yeah, something like this. I just use this as an example. Something like this. You should consider using usereducer. This state in your body, value state in your body, BLA. That's one. Another instance, or another scenario where you can consider using usereducer. Let me see if our download is done. Okay, we are done with the download. CD. Oh, it failed. Go down for install. For install. What's going on? Let's go again. I don't know the reason. So I'm installing it again.
Okay.
So, Mr. Cousin, please, are you with us?
I don't think so.
Oh, yeah. Okay, since we are recording the class, one more getting. Now, let's look at another scenario where you use usereducer. Let's assume you have a function. You know, okay. I want to create something like a component. Let's say these are our components, our class, our function-based components. Let's say app. Okay. Let's use our function instead. Let's assume these are components like this. Inside these components, like a, let me just open the script tag and write it there. It looks somehow. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. We have app like this. Let's say these are components, and inside this component we are returning so we are returning this. Let's assume we are returning this inside our component.
Shall I call it by?
No, more confidential example. Like, well, the other time when I was writing it inside HTML, like go shift in the color and all of that. You said?
Only could apply on colors in
Good that she apply color for you back on. Okay. So that's what we open script tag so that I'm share. But see after. So let's say we have a component like this. Now, in these components, let's say we have a state. Let's say we have name and set name. Both of them are coming from use state. And initial value of state is empty. Let's say we have another state, department, and set department equals to use state. Let's add one more. Let's say school, set school, equals to use state. So I want to check if this download is done. Yes, it's done. So let's switch to our React app. Use Usereducer. Usereducer app. Let me first open it. Open. Oops. Can you see my screen? Shine blue screen me. No. Kinini. Like orúkọ.
Mama install òun náà ni.
No, orúkọ folder tí mo create ní orúkọ project yẹn ni mo pè. You don't get.
I get you now.
npm start.
npm start. I don't think his network is alright. It keeps going and coming.
Yes. So let's open our app. Let's open this one here.
I just knew I was always using this zip one zip file that I'll not be having to edit it, delete this, that.
Okay, you always use the zip file.
Create a blank file easier to zip
You know zip. Yeah, well, okay, zip you save data. Why, you know, your way if you are considering data. Zip file you get data. So ó depend lórí nǹkan tí.
Máa pẹ́ bí. Máa filẹ̀ ni. Máa filẹ̀ lọ jókòó tí màmá ṣe nǹkan mi.
Ó depend lórí nǹkan tẹ́ni ò bá kọ̀ sí.
Ìjọ wọn try wọn ò gbà bóyá máa ń tẹ ẹ̀kọ́ create react app kí wá nìyẹn wá fún.
Okay.
That's why I do we open new react app or we zip it there.
Okay. Let's do something here together. Let's say we have a state. Inside the state, we have name and set name equals to use state. Let's department of solid and the set. Let's add one more. So let's create inputs to have all of these things. Or we can even make this to be 0. Let's say h should start at 0. So let's create inputs to handle these things. Inputs. So we have placeholder.
Those are the one ló tẹ́lẹ̀ eléyìí ò ṣe rárá.
Ó náà mo ń sọ Safari là ń lò tẹ́lẹ̀.
Okay.
So mo wá switch sí kíní Google Chrome. Like I now ready that, oh wow, Google Meet is optimized for Google Chrome. So
This is Google.
yeah, so no yẹ kí n wá lò pé kí n wá test ẹ̀ pé kí n wo bó ṣe máa rí. Okay, so let's say input equals to event. So we can now say column. Okay. I want us to look at something. Now, for the sake of what we want to explain, for the sake of that, I'll just create a variable, call out or a function. Let's create a different function. Again, for the sake of what we want to explain, I want to explain the reason why we will need user for something like this. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. So for that reason, I will create a function. I'll call it set name. So, set my name. You might conflict, but you set my name. So let's get this function set my name. Const set my name equals to this. So you are expecting events. You know, if you are expecting events, you know you don't need to write event, have you? Hope you know.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. No, if you omit it totally, function in Magba or in Magba, no. To still work in React or in Magba. But the reason I like it is because of future. For you to know that by events Wale, it's good you put it.
So without putting event
on Magba. What I mean is you can come here and say events, but here you don't need to come here and say events.
Okay.
Then pass.
So it's more events in the border one.
Yes, the first one. Then you can put it like that. But I don't know. If you are more comfortable with that, you can plan.
But I like this one. Conditions.
Okay. So, because I call your photo, your watch.
Any not to get to buy. But to coin not one.
Ewo.
Arrow function. Arrow function.
Ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ náà la ṣe ń ṣe tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀? a kàn máa fi
máa ń fi kàn síwájú ẹ̀.
a máa fi mí sí kọ̀tọ́ ni.
Okay.
It's a kọ̀tọ́. So we put event.
Lórí rẹ̀ gbé tuntun lé gbé.
Okay. Event dot target dot value. So let's just get a global variable. Let's say my name equals to empty string. Again, this is not ideal. I'm using this just for the sake of what I want to explain.
Yes.
Type equals to text. So let's copy this. So colon, I'll get the function called set my departments. Then school. Set my school. Then lastly, age. This can be number. So set my age. So for the set my name, you can say my name equals to events. Equals to, you can save name here. Since we are sending the event dot target dot value, it means we are sending the value inside it.
Yes. Yes.
So we have this now. Then create more variables. Let my department equals to, you can set it as an empty string too. Then just copy the same function, paste it, change it to department. Then it is department. So I can say my depth equals to depth. So then copy, paste, then my school. Then equals to school. Then we say my school. So let's get the variable my school here.
This call record.
Okay, I will adjust the count here. So let's say set my h. Let's say my age equals to h. So let's add this. Okay, good. So far this is it, right? Let's now add a button.
There's no local variable for my age yet.
Oh, thank you. Let's age equals to h.
Is it camel to what?
Okay. Camel casing. Thank you.
Camel casing.
Let's add a button. I can say set student details. Now, return local name. Set student details. So when you click on this button, you want to set all of these states. For now, they are not set as states, right?
Yes.
They are only set as the value of these variables here. So
yes.
When you click on this button, you want to set all of these details. So let's create const set details equals to this. So we can now say set name, then put my name. Hope you get it. Set
yes.
department. We're going to say my department. Set school. You can still put my school there. Then set age equals to, convert it to number, then my age. So now, when you are using a lot of set states like this, okay, let me combine it. When a function, oh, sorry, on click, how's wrong with me? On click. Haha. You know, when I click on this button, it will call on this function, right?
On client.
Okay. Thank you so much. So you know, when I click on this button, it will call on this function.
Yes.
Inside this function, I'm setting too many states. Like I'm setting a lot of states. So when you realize that your function is setting too many states, you might consider bringing all of these values as a single state. Do you understand?
Yes.
And manage them using Usereducer.
Okay.
So Usereducer is mainly for managing complex states. For me. Not that if you use use states for those ones for the state, not that it's not going to work. It will work for most time, but sometimes React may not handle it very well. Although such situations are so minimal. They are so minimal. When you are managing complex states using these use states, sometimes, not every time, sometimes they won't give you the expected results. In very rare situation. So why we are using Usereducer is to prevent the rare situation. Do you understand it?
Yes.
And it's partly because see the set state. You know this set name, set department. You know I said something in one of our classes. I said they don't occur immediately.
Yes.
So that's one of the reasons why you're using Usereducer to handle it. Sometimes if you are setting too many states inside a particular function call, this is a single, this is a function. So if you are setting too many states inside it, you might consider using Usereducer, like group all of them as a single state, then manage them using Usereducer. So let's now go into Usereducer, today's class. Usereducer. I'm happy that we've done Redux. Usereducer is like a simple version of Redux, so to say. But the difference is that Redux is to manage the whole application state. But this Usereducer is to manage the state of that particular component alone. Do you understand it?
Yes.
Okay. So Mr. Cousin, why are you? Wow. Is he here? Mr. Cousin. Okay, let's move on. It's not with us. So I will clear all of these things. Then I will. Let me
Good
just.
evening, I'm here, sir.
Oh, thank God. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Shine by me.
I can hear you.
Okay. Now, today I want to look at Usereducer. I want to see how this Usereducer works. It works like what you've learned in Redux. So to start with, we are going to create a file. We can call it reducer file. You can put it inside the same components, but to make it cleaner, that's why we are putting it inside external file. Shall I understand?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I will create a file. I can call it reducer.js. This reducer is like your reducer in Redux. Const my reducer. Because Redux reducer expect two things. What are they? The arguments?
State and action.
Good. Same way. This one also expects state and action. So Just put your if statements. So let's say we want to build, um, okay, let's say we want to do the exact thing we just looked at, the name, department, school, time. Let's say we want to do it here. So I'll just press Ctrl Z. Oops. Okay. So we want to do this using our usereducer. Shall I understand then?
Yes.
So we can just say this should be an object instead of being different strings. Instead of being different strings, we can just say let it be an object. Then for a start, let's first return states. You know that's what we do in Redux 2. Then you can now put your if statement here. If it meets this if action dot, let's say add student, if sorry, if action dot type equals to add student, then you want to add a student into this action. Shall you follow? Shall you not think of that in Redux now?
Yes. Even that, you practice your.
Okay. The way it works is that when we call on this, we are going to send something to this place called type. You know, you dispatch an action from knowledge of others. When you dispatch an action, whatever you dispatch becomes the value of this action, Abi.
Yes.
So you are checking the type on it. You are checking the property type on it. And if it's equal to add students, then you want to add it to this place. Sure you get it?
Yes.
Okay. So we can say let's maybe this one to be an empty array. So you can now push it into this place. But that's not exactly what we wanted to do here initially. Okay, let's create an object out of it. So Tawasakwe add student, Akaba create object, and that object becomes the new value of student. So that's going to do exact thing we were doing here. So we can say initially let the value of our states be an object. Is an object like this. So when we click on add student, whatever Tabatile add becomes the new value of students. Sure you get it?
Yes.
Okay. So we are going to dispatch an action, and that action we have type on it. Then if that type is add student, there's going to run the code here. So we can now say student or states, we can return action dot payload. So don't worry about this for now. I'm trying to imagine what you are going to dispatch to this place, since we want it to be exactly like this one. So I'm thinking of dispatching an object into this place. Then when we dispatch an object, it will now become the new value of state. Don't worry if this is somehow. Let me comment this out for now. Social you will be by.
Yes.
Good. Unlike Redux, you don't need to set initial value for your states. I come again. Unlike your Redux, you don't need to set initial value for your state. The usereducer hook will handle that, or we do that for you. So that we'll be able to make use of this reducer outside of this place, you export it out, Abi. Check what it does.
Yes.
Check what it does.
No. Okay.
So you're exporting this my reducer. After exporting it, now we can make use of it inside our components. So you can say use reducer. We are bringing use reducer from React. So create a variable. I can say let student details. Look at it this way. Use reducer is replacing use state. Have you now?
Yes.
So The first parameter, when we trigger this usereducer, about to trigger, right? The first parameter to my return will become the value of this student details, just like your use state. You know, when you trigger it, whatever it returns becomes the value of name, Abby. The first parameter
Yes.
becomes good. That's what we are also doing here. When you trigger it like this, the first thing it returns becomes the value of this student details. Now, this usereducer expects that you pass a parameter here. And the parameter is expected to be your reducer. This is our reducer, my reducer. So we are going to pass it as the parameter to be usereducer. Show on yellow.
Yes.
Okay. My reducer. So at import wale identify. You don't trigger it to you can trigger by your no. You just pass it like this. After passing in the second parameter now, remember I said something the other time that you don't set your states. You're not going to have any states for a start, Abby.
Yes. No, understand that.
Good.
Yes.
Now, this whatever you pass as second parameter will now be sent as the initial value of your states. The usereducer will now come here and set it as this. Show you.
Yes.
So, but you don't need to do it manually. Whatever you pass as the second parameter here becomes the new value of, or becomes the default value of your states. It can also take a third argument anyway, but we are not going to do that. The third one is, let's assume you want to run some logic. Remember I said something in one of our classes that your use state can take a function. Papa, we did something like this in one of our classes.
Yes. So just our local story.
Good. So let's assume you want to quickly run some logic, and you want that whatever that logic returns, you want it to be become the value of name. So you can put a function here. Abina.
Yes.
Same way also, you're used to this that maybe you want to first run some logic before setting the initial states. Then you can put a function here. But anyway, you will rarely do that. You will rarely do that. So this my reducer. This my reducer is the function we created. Then this, whatever you put here, becomes the initial value of your state. So now, student details will now be this empty object. Show you the way.
Yes.
Okay. Now, it also returns a second argument.
Does it mean it can be an array?
It can be anything. It can be an empty array. It can whatever it is becomes the initial value of your state. So now, the initial value of my state now is an empty array. If it's an empty array here. It can even be a string, it can be a number, it can be anything. It can be a string, it can be taye. But there's no point using usereducer for a string or number or something simple or a simple state. Sure you get?
Yes.
There's no point. So, you said? In fact, even if your state is just an object, just a simple object, you still use your use states. But for the sake of this explanation, we can low simple object. But if it's simple object, still make use of your use states. Still, you can have properties and all of those things. Usereducer is mainly meant to manage complex states. Okay. So these are object. So now the value of my student details becomes an empty object, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we can now come here and say dispatch. Remember, in your use state, whatever you put here becomes a function that can allow you to change the value of this name.
Yes.
Same way also, this dispatch is a function that can allow you to change the value of this student details. So I can call it dispatch students.
Just like the Redux too, dispatch is like a function.
Yes. I can call dispatch. I can use dispatch easily. But let's assume we have more than one usereducer in our page. You understand? So that's why I'm calling you dispatch. But you can just even use dispatch. It's also fine. Whatever name you give it becomes a function that allows you to be able to change the value of this student. Yes, any name to one.
And lo set student detail yẹn náà.
You said?
Mo pa lè lo set student details.
Yes, I will set student details. But well, I prefer we use dispatch something. Reason is this. Oma le jẹ́ ká mọ̀ pé it's not for states. If you about it, you automatically know that it's not for states. It's for reducer. Kò ní máa
User.
wà confusing. Sure you get.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I will remove this now, or let me comment it out. So the initial value of my name, I want it to be empty string. Name is empty string. Then department is also empty string. In fact, instead of writing all of this thing here, I just feel instead of writing all of this thing here, we can also put it here. Let's details or student details. Equals to, so my love tap and sure you get it.
Yes.
Okay, so let's student details. Then we can say name is empty string, department is empty string, age is 0, then school is empty string. In content B, again, we can do it here. B and create an object and just let me just copy all of this. You can copy all of this and put it here. Sure you get it. If you put it here like this, you won't have to put it here again. Me come here ko rough ju.
Go congested.
Sure you said?
Okay, if I go congested.
Yes, that's why I'm splitting it up. You can also put it here. So I will move it from this place now. Now, next is how then do we bring these student details to this place? You know, this well is actually coming. We need to find a way of bringing it here. So let's export it out. We can just say export. We don't even need to, okay. We have this. So you don't even need to put, okay, okay, it's fine like this. So we are exporting it out like this. I can't export it. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So we're exporting it out like this. Next is to bring it in here. You can now call student details. Student details. But now there's a little conflict. Conflicts per lele. So I can just call this my student details. My student details. Or my since it's just one student. My student details. So I will come here and press Ctrl Z. So we say my student details. Good. Any questions so far? Showing yellow.
Yes.
Okay. So next is after doing all of this, because we are calling too many set states here. We are setting too many states here. So we are not using this state again. I think I've even commented it out. Yes. So instead, we will dispatch them. We can now call on, I think we call this dispatch. Okay, so dispatch. You dispatch just like your readers. It will have a type, and the type can be add student. Then it will have a payload. The payload will now be the messages you want to send. So I can send name, department, school, age. So I can send an object. The object will have name, and let it be the value of my name. Then department, let it be the value of my department. School, let it be the value of my school. Then age, let age be, you can say number, or you can even just send my age. We will go and do whatever thing we need to do inside that reducer. So you get to, we are dispatching this object, and this object, we are dispatching this object. The type is add student, and it also has another property called payload, and the value of this payload is this object. Any question? Your payload can be an array, your payload can be a string, it can be a number, it can be anything. Show you.
Yes.
Okay. So let's now come here and undo that. If action.type, remember I said whatever you dispatch becomes the value of your action here.
Yes.
So if action.type is add student, remember we added a property here called type. Where is it? A property here called type, which is add student. So if action.type is add student, then return action.payload. Don't let us return the whole action.payload. The reason is because we want to do some little things. If we say return action.payload, it means that the value of our name, the value of our state will automatically become this payload. Shall I understand?
The value of our state
we automatically becomes this payload. If you say, what? Let me. I think Mr. Cousin Mike is making noise. Mr. Cousin, please help mute your mic. Mute your mic. Okay, I've muted him. Let's move on. So whatever you return becomes the new value of your state. Hope you get it.
Yes.
So, when we dispatch this action, this is the payload. This payload is this object. Abi?
Yes.
So when we now say return action.payload, it means that the new value of this state now will now be that object, tapas wale. Hope you understand.
Yes. Yes.
But maybe we want to do some little adjustment to it before setting it. This age, we want to convert it to number. It's actually a string.
Yes.
We want to convert it to a number. Also, thank God we are using TypeScript for the project. This is a number. It's not good that you replace it with a string. It's good to just follow that same format. So we can now say split action dot payload. We now set a new one and say action dot number, convert it to number. Action dot payload dot h. Hope you understand what you are doing here. This is the spread operator. Yes. Good. We are spreading everything back and we are replacing that of the age. Note that this age must come after this action dot payload.
Sorry. So it means it's only age we are altering.
Yes, you understand. We are not touching others. And we are saying the value of the age should be what is coming from action.payload.age, but convert it to number.
Yes.
So this now becomes the new value of the states once you dispatch that action. Now, let's now try to display these values on the screen. When you change a state, the page will automatically respond to it. So I can say my name is. So I want to say let name be student details dot name. Student details represent the value of the state, Abi.
Yes.
So my name is
And since it is in an object,
Yeah, student details. Let's destructure it. Go to the part. I think that would be better. Let's name,
student details.
department, school, age equals to student details. So we can say my name is name. Sorry, put on the chat. Um, please give me a minute. Give me a minute. I'm coming. Aha, are we together?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to say my name is name. Then I will say my department is depth. My department is depth. Then my school is school. And lastly, I am age. Yes. But for now, age is column I show. You know, that's are empty strings. Have you know?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go to the browser and see the results. Okay. Let's break everything to a new line. Okay, we have this. So let's fill this. Let's say this is target. Let's say CSC. Let's say school. Let's say age. Shall I put it automatically updates? Just like it is our states.
Mm-hmm.
I can add another one again. I can say Kenny. I can say BCH. I can say Uniline. Then I can set, let's say, ages. Let's say 5. Shall I put it automatically updated?
Well,
So that's how it works. You can if you want to dispatch another action, if you set it again, return that type equals to this. Any question? And if you still want to back to me, you can create a separate action, just like we did in our Redux. You know, in Redux, we didn't dispatch action like this, but I'll be a at a point, even this add student, I create action from Lotton. Like what I mean is, when we did Redux, we created a file. Let me just create it directly here. Create something like this, action.js. We did something like this. So we can now say const add student equals to add student. I'll tell us the advantage of doing it like this. Export defaults. So at the export this. At the export the jáde. No, you don't need to export it as default because you will most likely add other actions too.
you use on that same page.
Yes, a lot of actions like my láti export since the yẹ pé nǹkan tó wà ní òpó. Like you
So
use it.
action is function.
No, action is just a string. Oh no, action itself is an object only. Like object ni gbogbo object pátápátá ni action. But type well, la fẹ́ change instead of hand coding it here. This art student. Hope you get it.
I guess it's
Instead
not.
of hand coding it, akọ̀mọ́ sọ pé kó wá bá
But
wa.
action ló ń gba function wa. Òun ló ń gba dispatcher.
O action ló ń gbà wọlé.
With action dot type.
Yes, on la for an action dot type. So we just call this action dot. Let me call it action creator. Like how man pè anyway. Instead of just call it action.js, you can call it action creator.js. But got to consider instead of highlighting art students as a text, Akomawa imports art students. Don't worry. At import wale. Sure you get it now.
Yes.
So later come after for the advantage of doing it this way is that if you should write it this way, if you should put it here like this, there's high chance that you may make mistake. And now, if I come here and I say hard student really, now unlikely global dollar have a change here. I'm go bit low kiri. I don't know if you get it. I'm go bit
I guess it.
You will now start looking for it either omit or it means one or two places.
So anyway, that was very edit
Type here.
that was very edit state here anywhere. As my low action.
Yes, you get it.
When I did component 5 tabello and the very remove will be score. It be known as machine. What's now the difference between this reducer and redux?
This is just for that component alone. Elila kan tún lò, actually kan la tún lò. Two, you just want to gbogbo kini lò. Like how do I say it?
Okay. It's for a single. Yes. It's just like use state for a single array.
Yes, for a single for complex states ló ń kọ̀ wá fún, not for whole application states. Redux is for the whole state of the application. Sure you get. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Okay, wait. If like our okay, if you are using like an array, and inside our array we have we have an object that has an array inside of it. I don't know if you get me.
Yes.
An array of object that has an array inside. So does it mean that we will still have to map inside here if we are trying to access the array inside the array of objects?
Yes, the reason you are doing all of this is so that when you change it, it automatically reflects. Okay. You are not doing complex logic inside this reducer. No, what I'm just doing here inside your reducer is to change the value of your state. That's the primary function of this thing. Your components will still handle most of the logic. But when it comes to that final part of changing, of editing it, that's, except from this number, BB, except from this number, what you're just doing here is...
I didn't get what you said. Like, my components will do most of the editing.
Most of the logic. Good. Let's say in your components, you want to display, once you are not changing that state, once you are not changing it, your components will handle it. But when it comes to now changing the value inside that state, do you understand? So yes. It depends on when you need to alter any value there, then you bring it to the reducer.
Okay.
Do you understand it?
I think I get. What I'm just trying to say is, okay. Let's imagine we have does it mean that we will still map inside this function? Like if we are trying to access an array inside of the array.
Let's create a scenario like that.
Yes, please.
Let's say we have this an array. Inside this place, we have is an array of objects. Let's say name is Taye. Then let's say it has property details. And let's say details is an empty array like this.
Yes.
Now we want to now push
Now let's see.
department, age, and all of that into this place. Name Milikoloko. We want to push department, age, and what's it called? And school into this array. Let's assume that's what our application does. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. So for that, you don't need to touch this part again. This is set. So let's come to this place that we are dispatching. Payload. You still dispatch your payload just like before. So let's now come to our reducer. Inside this reducer, you want to change the value of this name to whatever the value of name is. But you want details to be that with name and all of that. So you can say, you can still write some simple logic here. You can say, let my, just call it results equals to, you now say states. Okay, you can put on
map
name equals to states index 0. You are get, how do I say it? You are saying name equals to state in. You can also destructure it. You know, when you say state index 0, you are saying name is equal to this object. I hope you did get it. Oh, no, that's not what we want. You can call it details equals to full details. Full details. So full details will now be this object now. Hope you get it.
Yes.
Of course, if you wish to, you can also use the structure line.
So it means if you want to access that details, it has to be states dot details.
Yes, it will be, no, you know this is an array. State the index of what you need dot details.
Dot details, the map.
Yes, you get
okay.
it. Get it. Okay. But don't come here and say
state is always going to be an object.
No, state in this case will be
is an array.
What this array. So that's why we did something like this state index 0.
I'm too used to that mapping, but you remember I can like the index.
Okay.
All those higher order functions.
Okay. But please don't do something.
I understand it now.
Don't do something. Don't say state dot anything equals to something. Okay. Please don't. If you can get something out of state, you can say let A equals to state dot, let's say, I'm assuming that my state is an object now. You can do this.
Okay.
In this case, you are only extracting something out of state, but don't set it here. Don't do something like the state dot or state equals to anything.
So, so now it is because we have content inside our array of objects. Like if it were to be an empty array that we're sending things into, that we're filling up, does it mean that we have to map the state?
You can spread it now. You can say let A equals to dot states. You can now push. You can now say.
Okay. Since the title array, nice.
Yes. A dot push. You can now push your action dot payload. You know, you are pushing.
Push down my loading now.
I'll push.
You can use.
Yes, you can also do it here. You can also do something like this. You can also
one thing that we have to use in push. We can't use set state again here.
No. Use state, mombi.
Push down my low.
No, this is it. You know this A is now your state with action.payload. That is what you are sending. Now. When you are now done, you now say return A. Whatever you return becomes the new value of your state. That's what I want to see.
Okay.
Hello?
Whenever you return, it's just like destructuring an array, then setting it after.
Yes, whatever you return becomes the new value of your state. So if I say return 7, the new value of my state is now 7.
Okay. I get you. I get
So
you.
that's why when we are done with everything, you now return A.
Mm.
With that, A will now be the initial state plus what you sent in, action.payload.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
when you now return A, the page will automatically update itself. Show you,
Let's go back. Action dot payload.
you know,
Okay. Yeah. Objects here.
I've dispatch in my
Mm.
one.
I get it now.
So that's use reducer. Let's check. Can we check one more hook use context before we go?
Yes. Check on this man if he's there. Mr.
Okay.
Cousin.
Mr. Cousin, please, are you here, sir?
I
Mr.
doubt
Cousin.
it.
Oh, I don't think
Let me call him. Abi?
Yes, supposed to.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Are you there?
Network on.
Ah. Let us be a bad gun, yeah.
Gidi.
Ah.
At the better class.
For real. And he has missed a lot on this user.
Check our stop on Bing Bang.
Hello, Mr. Cousin.
Hello, boss.
Hello.
Hello.
I can hear you now. What's wrong with your network?
I don't know what's wrong with the network. I've been coming and going. I don't understand.
Why are you following?
Yeah, I'm actually in the class. I was saying something. I don't know if you guys were hearing.
Bro.
Go on. And but since you're in the class, let's Abi.
Yes, let's proceed.
Let's carry on.
So we want to look at use context, which is another interesting hook. Use context. So let's discuss why you need to use context. Use context is used to manage the overall state of your app. You cannot ask me that. Then you want to look see Redux. I don't know if you get it.
If managing the whole app.
So there are some instances where you will use context. There are some instances where you will use Redux. Let's discuss the difference between the two. Use context is simpler. Like it's not as complex as Redux. It's not. Then, but the states you manage with use context is if you realize that it's a state that will not be changing often. If that state is needed by the whole app and it's not going to be changing often, then you make use of use context. If you want to, anyway, it's still subject to changes. Why some people will still tell you that if your application already has Redux, they will not see any reason to use context again. For instance, if I'm already managing some things with Redux in my app, so you can did set up Redux, and I'm managing some things with Redux, some people may not even see need to bring in use context because you already have Redux installed. And whatever you can manage with use context, you can also manage with Redux. Shall I understand?
Yes.
Now, hello, Mr. Cousin. You raised a hand.
Maybe he's testing it.
Okay. So whatever you can manage with use context, you can manage with Redux. Do I put you already set up? Because as much as possible, you should try to avoid Redux. Because if you are thinking it in Redux, you know you are installing something new again. npm install. Whatever she installed, that's how big our application is also. And a big application is a slow application.
Wow.
Yes. So as much as possible, Tebale and Pelu use context without having to bring in Redux, then it's fine. But if it's a value that changes frequently, if the value is needed, if it's needed at a different part of your app and it changes often, then Redux handles that. Some people even tell you, well, all these things they are opinionated, like it's based on opinions, different views, developers. It's not like there's this standard way to to do these things. It's just based on what you think. Some people even tell you that that prop drilling, prop drilling is when you send from prop to another prop to another prop. So, we talked about prop drilling, happy.
Yes.
Some people still tell you, well, if what you are drilling is not much, you can still send it as prop to about shaking issue. So it just depends. But then this is just a simple rule that I can say.
Because I have a friend that works already like he writes program already, but then doesn't. He said he has not learned to read docs.
So ó lè jẹ́ hook, especially àwọn tó wáyé
Which
pé
is another hook to know.
àwọn tó wáyé pé they started programming after functional programming became popular. They may not even necessarily learn Redux. So they just use context with my manager app. But before functional program became popular, we use state stand you just had in order to manage the whole code, you use context. Think about it. So you have to make use of Redux or another library. There are other libraries also. You have to manage, but I think Redux is just the most popular among state management tools. Sure you get. But with the use context, also reduce the share Redux or when you need to bring in Redux. Any question?
No.
Okay. Now, use context is like I said again, like I said the other time, it is used to manage states that don't change often. For instance, authentication, like logged in, log out. Oh, there you use the app like what them are login, go to log out, go to log in, go to log out, go to log in, go to like what I'm saying, like it's not a state that changes often. But then there are some states that change often. For instance, maybe add to cart. Usually add code change when you go to remove from cart, go to add to cart. So you may not use that. You may not use context to handle that part. Like it's not efficient for his best. But it's not just efficient for states that change often. Okay, so let's set it up now. Use context. And again, the reason you are using all these use contexts. Hello, Mr. Cousin.
I don't think.
Okay. The reason you are using all these use context Redux, you said that you won't be passing values using props. Shall to understand props to props to props to props. So that use context is like a store, so just like your what's it called? Redux. Anything can go to that store. Make use of the value there and use it. Anything can do that. So that's the same way use context also works. I will clear everything here. I will delete all of these things. Then I'll create let me delete all this reducer and action to open CP. Let me delete. Okay. Then that will have to create action currently. Okay. So we have this. We can create a file. Let's get a new file. We can call it, let's say we want to manage something, let's do something very simple with it. For a start, a number. I display number. So we can call this maybe num context.js. The reason we are using num context so that when you see it, you automatically know, oh, this is context to manage num. Hope you get it.
Yes.
So inside this place, you can now say you want to bring in something from there. It's called create context. Create context. This create context is a function. You trigger the function. So when you trigger it, whatever it returns becomes you store it as a variable. I call it num context. I come again. We imported create context. We triggered it. It's going to return something. Whatever it returns becomes the value of num context. So let's now make use of this num context in our application. Let me remove all of this. What you want to do, the first thing is you want to provide that context to the app. What do I mean? Let's say I I have a component. Let me create a component. I'll just call it, let me call it num.js. This is a component. This component displays num. Cons num. I'll bring in React. Then return there's export default num. Good. So let's import it here. So this is the num component. Let's say, let me just put a text inside it saying I am the num component. Is that?
I think Cousin just sent a message.
Okay, let me check. Let me check the group. I can't see his message. Okay, in our chat. Oh, I was checking the group. I didn't know that it was in the chat. Okay, sir.
Which project is he talking about? This
The
one.
the last assignment, the school project.
Okay. Are we meant to talk about it? It's a career now.
Yes, yes.
I don't think there's anything to talk about this.
Well, maybe modify display so that we see the progress and all of that. But there's nothing really. You said maybe you can manage your complex states using Usereducer now.
Yeah, that's what I want to first finish my well contract as a career. Then I want to use that Redux.
Okay.
Redux seems complex when I use user. This user seems straightforward, but it feels like it's a part of Redux.
Yeah. Okay.
It feels like it's there because only similar action type dispatcher.
Yes. Done.
The only difference is create store selector at the tongue.
Use dispatch. Even only dispatch no. That's it. Only dispatch.
Only dispatch.
Okay. So we have this. I am num components. I am. Let's say I am the num component. So let's go to the browser. Why is this coming back here? So we have this the num component. So let's put a value there. Let's say the value is number. Let's say 0. So let's add a button. We are going to display this number. Then when we click on the button, we increase this number. That's where we are going to. Shall you understand?
Yes.
The first is we are going to wrap this component with our context. Remember we created a context here.
Yes.
So we are going to wrap our component with that context. If we wrap, let me first export this component so that I'll be able to make use of it elsewhere. You know, if you don't export it, you won't be able to use it.
Else, yeah.
So export. Start with this with capital letter. Not because it's compulsory, but because of the way we want to use it. If it's with small letter, it will still work. Context. So bring it in here. Num after JS. Num context. Remove these states and all of those things. Num context. This num context, in fact, when you call on Create context. What it returns is an object. Create context actually returns an object. Sure you get.
Create object. Create
Context. It
sounds an
returns
object.
an object.
Okay.
So
Nice.
that object, you will now use something inside it called provider.
Like we did for
Yes.
Redux
Good.
inside our index.
Yes.
I want to go. Can you for market?
So it's going. You are using the provider property. What happens is when you provide like this, it means num can use it and any child or all the children of num. See num banner on component meaning all of them can make use of that context. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that means num and all his children can make. Well, component about the fellow nínú ẹ̀ la máa rà pẹ̀lú provider.
Product what if provider is indexing instead.
You can also do that if you want to. You can also say, you can remove it on this place.
It means you can do the same thing with our Redux.
Yes. No, what happened is the reason why we are putting it is that we are still going to write some logic. Yeah, see, no, people. To fi jẹ́ kó yàtọ̀ sí Redux. Redux is managing everything, but níbi people you, what's it called? You will have to. We are going to make use of states.
Manage. But context, you only a particular component you manage.
No, it's managing the whole app. But the difference is this. Amalu states. And you know you won't use states inside your index.js. I don't know if you get it.
I don't get.
Amalu states app.js as we proceed now.
Yes.
We are still going to make use of states here. Three context in need.
Okay.
Do you understand? To real enough, effect based on index.js. If you just to provide it for the app, fine, but because as we proceed, when we get there, you understand what I'm saying much better. So you can now come here. You are wrapping your num, but just know that whatever components you wrap with this num context provider can make use of your context. And don't let's forget the purpose of create context. Of use context. The purpose is that we want to provide a value that will be accessible to all components in our application. So, but the question is,
why? I'm sorry. Why is our num context? Why is it starting with a capital letter? Why is it having cameo case?
Oh, no.
Okay. I'm sorry. I remembered.
Okay. Now, remember the purpose of all of this is to be able to have a value that we can use in all our applications. So the question is, where is even the value?
Okay.
So you pass it here. It expects a value.
Convention value.
Yeah, this must be value. Our colony components really. This provider our colony Redux learning. React learning.
Context learning. Okay.
React learning. So props to what expect is a value. Is expecting a value. Do you understand?
Yes.
So let's say for a start, let's put this value to 1. I'm coming. 1. Only tó bá fẹ́ lo nọ́mbà máa fi sínú bíbá ẹ̀.
Okay.
So it's also fine. You can do it like this if you want to. So this is 1. Next is you can now make use of num inside all the children of this context of this next num context dot provide value to 1 bimbe. So let's find a way of using the value inside this num. To make use of it, you come here and bring in a React hook called usecontext. Usecontext. So you say let's maybe my context value equals to use context. Use context ó wá wò pé context wo ni kí òun lò. I'm about bringing this same thing again, num context. So okay, make use of num context. Do you understand? Hello?
Yes, I'm with you. I'm trying to understand. We are importing the object from num context
No,
in
use
it.
context. React to lower. This use context.
Okay.
You
What are
understand?
the object yẹn láti bẹ̀rẹ̀ ni àbí?
Okay, you mean this?
From num context. I thought you were trying to do something
Yes,
from here now. You
we
said
need this whole context now. So we bring it in here. You import it here. Num context. As an importer, well. So you are saying that use context should make use of num context. Wait, in tó wà nínú num context, I fẹ́ lò báyìí o. Sure you get it.
yes.
With this single line, whatever you set as the value here becomes the value of this. Where is it? Let me close this one. I'm not using this one. Whatever you set as the value here, maybe beta to provide there, automatically becomes the value this use context will return. So it means that my context value is now 1. To check it, yes, let's say my context value. You say it. Let's go to the browser. Can you say 1? Let me take it to another one. So
He said, can we send more than one value?
In fact, you can send what? You can't send more than one value, but you can send an array, you can send an object, you can send any value you want. Sure you get.
Inside value.
Yes, this can be an object. Yes, it can be an object. Name, style, department is, let's say, software. So we are send this now. I'm getting here. This my context value is now that object. I can now say dot name. Sure you get.
Yes.
So you sit here on this line. Why is it taking me back to desktop? Can you see the tire? Then you can also destructure it if you want to. You can destructure name out of it so that you only make use of name. Since you know that it's going to return an object, so you are pulling out name out of that object. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. Good. So next is you want to, let's go back to what we're doing. I'll just say let this be num. And this will be to display num. Since I know that what I'm sending here is just a number, so this one becomes the value of num. And I'm displaying that num. So how then do we increase the value of this num? We want to add a button inside this component. And when we click on this button, you want to increase number. Do you understand it? We want to increase the value of this number. I'll just come and say increase number. So let's see how we go about that. What we are now going to do, instead of encoding this one here, is going to be the value of a state here. Can you see the reason why we are not going to put it inside index.js now?
Yes.
So it's
because you can't declare a state. You can't declare a state inside index.
Yeah, how much? No. Use state. So we can set the initial value to be 0. So this will now be num. Good. So num what's it called? Value is now 0. Now we are now going to send down instead of sending, now we want to set this set num. After pass it down so that we're able to make use of it inside this place. After send it down. So you can, instead of sending a string, you can send an object and say let num, and let's say set num. Sure you get it. This is same as saying let num be this num, and let set num be also be set num. Abi now. So you can write it this way. Although I'm not a fan of sending use states now. I'm not. I'm not. Instead, you can create a function inside this place. My func. Like it's not a good practice anyway. I'm not a fan of sending this set num. I still want us to call it inside this component. It's always cool that the owner of a state in mark this sets whatever. And look where you used it. Sure, you get it.
The conventions of
yes, it makes things cleaner. And also, when you have bugs, atima wakiri, it's because of bugs. Ọjọ́ tí wàhálà wa máa dé tí tẹ̀pẹ́ ń wá bọ́ọ̀gì kiri àti máa wá kiri á jẹ́ kí iṣẹ́ rọ̀ wá lọ́rùn. So instead, you can just. So instead of, I will now pass down my func instead. So when we call on this my func, whenever we trigger this function, we want it to increase the value of this set num. Remember I said something the other day that whenever you are using this set num with the initial value of num, you put your function. You can use previous, and now say previous plus 1. Shall I say?
Yes.
Am I going to
go? But explain that previous, like.
Okay. Now.
I understand it, like, because to the previous initial value here, yes. I had it.
Yes.
But can it work in the place of mapping? Okay, like, you can use previous, like, if you have an array.
Yes.
Inside the array of objects, can we use previous, then just map directly?
This previous now stands for the OLA. You can now say dot map.
Confirm.
But not, be like, sets. We use it.
Function.
Use this whenever. See, if you say num plus 1, in fact, we've been using this before now. But it's a good practice that whenever you are calling on set states, this is they need the value in can it pay need the let's assume we want to change the value to 50. So that could depend on the initial value. I don't know if you get it. You know this 50 does not depend on initial
yeah, just letting it inside.
Just is fine. But once you depend on initial value of it inside this place, then it's always good to call on previous. For most of it, by saying num plus 1, it will also work fine. But because of the way React works, and because of the way it does batch updating of states, it doesn't update states immediately. So because of the way it handles batch updating of states, it's advisable that whenever you need to call on, you need this value inside this set states. Then you first you use this instead, this model. Do you understand it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we are sending this my func down to this place. Now we can get it in, the value is now this object. This object now has two properties. One is num and the other is my func. So let's now make use of it here now. We can now destructure the two of them out of this place. Num. What you are doing here, you can do it inside any component. Once the component is part of what we wrap here, it's wrapped with this num context. You can do it inside any component. So on click of this, you now call on my func, and that's all.
It's coming in time.
Okay. So you know that we are saying this value is an object now, right?
Yes.
The object has two properties. One is num, the other is my func. It's like saying num is this, and my func is my func. Have you now?
Yes.
Let me make it big. Func. So when we trigger this use contexts and we pass the num context here, I said something the other time that whatever it returns becomes the value of whatever variable you put here. Let's say this is A. Have you now?
Yes.
Whatever the value here is becomes the value of A now. Abi. So,
okay.
Abi now. Should we got select on here?
Yes.
So if I want to see the num, I will say A dot num. That will display the num. Now, I can now destructure the num out from this place. Num. So, since we already have a property here, remember we have a property here called num.
No.
So that makes it possible for us to destructure it out of this place like this and display the num, and it will still work fine.
Mm.
Then we also want to display this, destructure this my func. Remember, this is the value of the my func. In fact, you are even allowed to copy this instead of first creating a function called my func. You can do something like this instead, but it will be off.
Mm-hmm.
So a way of making it neater is to create a function like this and to send it down to this place. So this is the value. The function here is now the value of my func. So tapati lè pé my func, we need this my func so that when we click on this button, we want to call on that my func. Are you getting it?
Mm-hmm.
So you destructure my func also out of that object. Remember, it's going to return an object. So you can destructure my func out of it too.
Mm-hmm.
So when you click on it now, it's going to call on this my func. If it's a parameterized function, you need to put this. But because it's not a parameterized function, you just put the name directly. We've been doing this before now, Abi.
Mm-hmm.
So when you click on this now, it will now call on this my func. And this is my func, this function here. Show that.
No.
Okay. So let me use.
So I add it directly by.
Yes. So this my func ló máa wá pé set num.
Mm-hmm.
Power increase value. Yes. So when to update it, right, this provider will automatically pick it up and make it available inside of the components using it. So let's increase it.
Okay, no.
So that is how this what's it called? The use context work. Again, the use context is made to provide data for the whole app or for a big part of our app. It will not necessarily be the whole app. Just wrap the component with this, and the component will be able to use it and the children of that component. So that is use context. Any question?
None for now.
Okay. Okay, let's try to pass a value before we go. So instead of just adding one, let's say maybe you can choose to add many values. Instead of me first creating an input, I will just find a way of reducing that. I'll say increase by 2. Let's say this function is increased by 2. And let's say we have another function, maybe increase by 5. So this first increase by 2, we add 2. While the one increased by 5 we add 5. Sure you get. So in this case, when you call on this func, I want it to be a parameterized function so that whatever value we put here will be sent. So I'll put 5 here. So you can now come here and receive it. Say 5 plus
4. What's it low?
You don't go. So let's refresh this page. And plus 2, plus 2, plus 5, plus 5, plus 2. So because at the ancient view, you can do it inside another function. Let's say for some reasons, you don't want to do it here. Let's assume you want to do something like this. Let's call this new func. So let's get a func here called new func. And new func is like this. So you can now call on my func here and pass your 2 here. Do you understand it?
Yes.
It will still work fine. So Tabashi work application. Maybe you still want to do some logic before calling on my func. But I've actually 1 or 2 processes inside this new func before calling on my func. You can run it like this and it will work fine. So this is use contexts. So use this one you need to. We'll meet tomorrow.
Nice one.
Thank you
All
so
right, so
much.
have a
Bye
good
bye.
night.
And you too, brother. Let me stop
Yeah,
it.
my brother. Bye bye.